Mattie's going to give you some non-league football questions to see your relevance with that.
Okay, so Ossie, I'd love to chat about your non-league football experiences and a bit of your knowledge about it. I know your son managed and played in non-league. Did you ever get to go to games or help him out or ever give him any advice during his tenures?
Help him out, definitely not, because if I want to say something, he will immediately say, no, bye-bye, I don't want to hear anything and so on. But yes, of course, I went to see his games and I will make I will make my opinion known to him, yes. For example, I like this player, I don't like this player. You are playing in a certain manner, you are playing, yes, of course, I will do that, yeah, definitely. And of course, when he was playing as well, I was following him quite a lot.
What do you feel the non-league experience brings in comparison to going and watching a Premier League game? So when you went and watched your son manage or play, how do you feel like the match day experience differed?
Oh, well, it's completely different. I love it. I mean, just to go there, and I was in my own, nobody bothered me, and I have a cup of tea or whatever it was, and I watched the game and so on. Only when you were talking about big time Charlie, say when you go to the big games and so on, it's completely different. People would come and I would have to sign a lot of autographs and talk, etc., etc., etc. So going to see non-league football, it was incredibly relaxing and it's different as well. All the atmosphere is different, and you don't see, of course, the big quality that some of the guys have in the Premier League, of course. But you can see as well. You can see as well the big passion. Everybody wants to play. Everybody make mistake. It doesn't really matter. Just carry on playing and so on. It's beautiful.
One other thing I was going to ask was, you see players like Jamie Vardy in the Premier League who have progressed from non-league up to the top level of football. Do you feel that there is other players that could maybe make that jump, but they just haven't been discovered yet?
It is very difficult. It is very, very difficult indeed, because, well, it's just difficult. But it could happen. Yes, of course, it could happen. And of course, when something like that happens, I give a lot of encouragement and make people in non-league very, very happy, because it's happening. It's not easy because it's a huge gap, of course, but it could happen.
So, Ossie, you've played in the FA Cup yourself. How big do you think the FA Cup is, or how big do you believe the FA Cup is to those lower league teams, such as us as Harpenden? Because obviously, it brings in the community, there's perhaps money involved, a potential for growth. So how big do you believe it is?
Well, the FA Cup, when we won it, for example, 1981 and all these years, the FA Cup was incredibly huge. I would say, in terms of cups, it was second only to the World Cup. This is how big it was. And I remember, for example, we were in 1981, 1982, we won the FA Cup. And 1984, we played the final of the UEFA Cup. The amount of people, the amount of reporters, the amount of interest, it was much bigger in the FA Cup than in the European Cup. I give you an idea how big it was. Unfortunately, from that time onwards, it has been declining because especially the teams don't use sometimes they don't use the very best team. So somehow they play the reserves and so on. And that is why the DFA has suffered a lot. But it still is a wonderful competition to win. And for non-league teams, God, to be in the FA Cup is something incredibly huge, incredibly big.
Yeah. And recently, we've actually seen, AFC Marine take on your Spurs in the cup, and there's just such a magic about it, isn't there? Yeah. Especially when two teams like that face against each other.
It is a very special magic. But again, unfortunately, at that time there were a lot of upset in the game, because you have a non-league football beating what will be at the time a Premier League team. Now it's not happening that much, because somehow the difference has become bigger and bigger, and the pitches are better, and everything else is make it a much more difficult. But still, the magic of the FA Cup is still there, and it will always be there, of course.
Brilliant. Yeah, I agree with you. And now we look at the community side of things. How important is a community to a football club in your eyes?
Oh, it's extraordinarily important. We can see right now, because we are with COVID and so on. You can see, for example, the stadium without people and so on. I would say that football without football without people become just another sport. It's like watching maybe tennis or Formula One or whatever it is. What made football the most beautiful sport in the world? What made football so special? In fact, is the people coming to see the games, the supporter and the noise they make and so on. You can see very clearly now with this pandemic how important the supporters are. I may say something even more. I will say that the supporters, at the end of the day, are the most important people in football, because all the other people change. Players change, managers change, everything change. One thing that never changed are the supporters. You are born being a Tottenham supporter, for example. Well, that's it. You're going to be. You can change your wife, but you cannot change your club. So you will be a supporter of your club for all your life.
That's a brilliant analogy to put.
I hope my wife is not listening to me.
Well, talking about community at Harpenden, there's around how many people? I think 30,000 people in the town, and I think we get around 1% of that population at Rothamsted. And we would love to invite you to a Harpenden Town game at some point, hopefully in the future, if things have cleared up. What do you think about that? Do you think you'd maybe come down for a game?
Oh, it will be an honor. It will be wonderful, definitely. Like I said, it's not too far from my house, so no problem. Yes, we make it a deal as soon as people are allowed to see games. I'm going to see the game. No problem. It will be great.